please hit that subscribe button.
Hey everybody.
Better suited to win the Stanley Cup this season. If you are new to the channel, Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins.
Locked on and he scored! And we're live. Hey everybody. So if you've been following this channel over this past year, you probably know that I've kind of been at war with Buffalo Sabres fans, and that stems back from something that happened over the summer. And for those of you that are new or don't know this, I will quickly summarize what happened and give a quick history on what happened. But today, I really want to say that I genuinely feel bad for Buffalo Sabres fans. I really, really do, because they are a great fan base. Buffalo is one of the top fan bases in the NHL. Their TV ratings are always very high, even for non-Buffalo games. In any national TV games, any playoff games, Buffalo is always there as one of the top cities and markets in the TV ratings, whether the Sabres are involved or not. They love hockey. They really are a very, very good hockey fan base, and it's got to absolutely suck rooting for this team that blows year after year after year and hasn't been good in a decade. And I really do. I genuinely feel bad for Buffalo Sabres fans. But before we fully get into the video, I just want to quickly remind everyone to please hit that like button and give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Both of those things really, really help out a lot and are greatly appreciated. So let's go back to this past summer and give a little backstory to this. So I did a video, I forget the exact title. I'll put a card up here somewhere that will, if you want to go back and watch it, you can. I think it was titled something like, "What are the Buffalo Sabres doing?" And basically the video was about Buffalo making moves that made it seem like they were trying to be a playoff team this year, and then other moves making it seem like they're still rebuilding. Like they were trading away draft picks and stuff for depth players essentially. And that made it seem like they were trying to make the playoffs and build up a good roster for this year. And then they were still doing things with young players that made it seem like, okay, maybe they're still in the rebuilding phase. And I really just think Buffalo got caught in the middle. Are they a playoff team? Are they a rebuilding team? And they were just caught somewhere in the middle. And I was basically, my point of that video was saying, what are they doing? They're not good enough to be a playoff team, but they're not acting like a rebuilding team. So now they're just caught in the middle in no man's land, and it's not going to make anything better. And basically me saying that Buffalo wasn't going to be good again this year, Sabres fans came in and absolutely shredded that video. It has like over 30 dislikes on it. The comment section was just them absolutely shredding me, ripping me apart for saying that Buffalo wasn't going to be good. And if you go back looking at that comment section now, it's hilarious. It's laughable. Some of the takes that these Sabres fans had about their team before the season started. There were guys saying that they were going to be one of the top 3 teams in the division. There were people saying that they're without a doubt a playoff team. There were people saying that all these guys that they were bringing in, guys like Johansson and Colin Miller, were going to make significant improvements to the team, and that all these depth guys were going to all of a sudden vault Buffalo into this contending team. And it's laughable going back and reading that now, because look at Buffalo again this year, guys. 51 points, 6 in the Atlantic Division, well out of the playoff picture. They lost last night at home, and this was a brutal loss for the Sabres last night, at home to the trash bag Montreal Canadiens, who are right in the same boat as the Sabres. 3-1 on home ice, just another awful home loss for Buffalo. And you watch this team, and they're not good. They suck again. And they've sucked for a decade now. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, barring some miraculous final 2-month run. No, just stop. They're not going to make the playoffs this year. This is now 9 straight seasons with no playoffs for the Buffalo Sabres. They stink again. That's the fact of it. They stink again, and I genuinely feel bad for Sabres fans because they deserve better than this. They're a great fan base. They're very supportive of hockey, their team, the NHL, just hockey in general. They deserve a lot better than this, but it's now been 9 straight seasons with no playoffs, the longest active streak in the NHL. Potentially could get longer next season, depending on how this offseason goes and where this team goes from here. But it's just, God, it's got to be awful being a fan of this team, watching them night in and night out just lose these terrible games. Watch them continue to suck year after year after year. Kind of doesn't matter what they do, everything ends up being wrong, and it's got to be a brutal team to root for, and I really do feel bad for them. So, there are things I like about Buffalo. There are some good pieces there. I mean, Jack Eichel is having an MVP season. If Buffalo was even remotely sniffing a playoff spot, even as a wild card team, if Buffalo were any semblance of a good team this year, Jack Eichel would be your MVP because Jack Eichel is the Buffalo Sabres. He's been outstanding. Rasmus Dahlin, he's just a kid. He is going to be a superstar defenseman. He is going to light it up at the NHL level when he really grows into it and develops into the full potential player that he can be. Rasmus Dahlin will be probably a Norris Trophy winner, maybe a multiple-time Norris Trophy winner. He's going to be really good. Victor Olofsson, I think, is one of the best young goal scorers in the NHL. He's got a ridiculous shot, absolutely lethal shot, can score a ton on the power play as he's shown this season. If he gets his 5-on-5 scoring up, which having better players around him would help with, I think Olofsson could be a perennial 40-goal scorer and be a very similar player to a David Pastrnak type who scores, a ton of goals, can rip it on the power play, if he gets more talent around him, I think his 5-on-5 scoring is going to go up. Olofsson's a really, really good young goal scorer. I mean, they have some good pieces there, but there's still so much missing in Buffalo. So much missing. Secondary scoring is non-existent. That team scoring-wise is Jack Eichel and the players that play with Jack Eichel, and then everyone else just contributing a minuscule amount. The secondary scoring is a huge issue. They're way too reliant on Eichel for anything offensively. Defense is still a problem. They don't have a top tier. They need a top tier defenseman. Now Dahlin is going to be that in the future, but he's not really there yet. A true number one elite defenseman yet. He's just a kid. He's still got developing to go. He's still got a ways to go. And outside of Dahlin, they've got a bunch of depth defensemen. They're trying to push guys like Colin Miller and Brandon Montour into top 4 spots. Those two are not top 4 defensemen. They are complementary players, and they can be very, very good in those roles. But they're not top-level defensemen. You need those guys in your bottom pair complementing other good defensemen on your roster, and Buffalo doesn't have those other good defensemen. Rasmus Ristolainen is an okay defenseman. That's it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Rasmus Ristolainen is an okay defenseman. He's nothing special, absolutely nothing special. And I think Sabres fans in general are way too high on him and think he's a lot better than he actually is. He is an okay defenseman. He's not a top pair defenseman. Jake McCabe I actually do like. I think Jake McCabe can be a very good player for Buffalo if you put, again, the right pieces around him. But Jake McCabe, to me, is a solid number 3. He's a number 3 defenseman. He's not a top pair guy. To me, Jake McCabe reminds me a lot of Kevin Shattenkirk when he was in St. Louis, where you had Alex Pietrangelo and Jay Bouwmeester as your top defense pair, and then you had a very good number 3 there in Kevin Shattenkirk. And that's what I see Jake McCabe as in the future, is a very solid number 3. But I don't see him as a top pair guy. They need another high-level, top-level defenseman to pair with Rasmus Dahlin. They need Jake McCabe to develop into that solid number 3. And then Now you're talking, you add one more top 4 defenseman there, then that puts guys like Montour and Miller down on the bottom pair where they belong. And now you're talking about a much better defense core in Buffalo. But they're not there yet. They're not there right now, and that's still going to take some time to fix. So defense is still a problem. Secondary scoring's an issue, defense is an issue, and don't even get me started on the goaltending. This team has not had adequate goaltending since Ryan Miller left. It's really unbelievable. They brought in Carter Hutton after a great year as the backup in St. Louis. Hutton comes in, supposed to take over as a starting job. That move has absolutely flopped. That move has 100% been a total flop. Linus Ullmark is actually the better goaltender in Buffalo. Hutton is not a starter at all, and he's shown that in Buffalo. He's not starter material. And they have nothing as far as an NHL level starter goes. Ullmark could be maybe a average at best goaltender, but again, I don't see him ever being a high level goaltender. They need a legitimate, good starting NHL goalie, and they don't have that right now. So, listen, there's a lot still missing in Buffalo and in every facet of the game, and that's a problem. And this team is in a difficult division with teams like Tampa Bay, who are good every year, Boston, who's good every year, Toronto, who, if they could ever figure that defense out, it could be a top tier elite NHL team. You have Florida, who's the best offensive team in the league this year. If they ever figure their defense out, they could go to being an elite level team. I mean, this is a difficult division with a lot of other good teams, and it's going to be hard for Buffalo to contend and to get into a playoff spot. And they're not there yet. They're not making the playoffs this season. And like I said, this is now 9 straight years with no playoffs for the Buffalo Sabres. And I do legitimately feel bad for their fans because this rebuild has been going on way too long. They've messed way too many things up. And their fans deserve better because they are a good fan base, a loyal fan base, and a fan base that heavily supports hockey in the NHL. And I mean, I want to see this team make the playoffs at some point. It's been almost a decade now. After next season, it will probably be a full decade with no playoffs, and that just sucks. And I want to see Eichel get better players around him. I want to see Dahlin develop into a top level defenseman. I want this team to figure it out because the league is better when Buffalo is good, and Buffalo hasn't been good in a while. But I really do feel for you guys, Buffalo fans. I don't want to be at war with you. I think I think I was proven right this season that they're not good and they're not going to make the playoffs. And you guys can hate on that as much as you want, but that's just the truth. Those are facts. Buffalo isn't good again this season, and they've still got a ways to go. Maybe it's time for a GM change. Jason Botterill. What's he really done to vastly improve this team? This team's still a bottom of the league non-playoff team. What's he really done? Maybe it's time for a new GM with the Buffalo Sabres. But anyway, with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.